The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome into the latest edition of Crossed Flags, and if this looks kind of like a return to the past or back to the future or whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
it is. Yeah, we're back in the podcast studios. Kind of fun. Hopefully we'll be able to do this more often. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. And we thank, once again, producer Molly for coming in and helping us out this week. Producer John had too many other things going on, and the scheduling just didn't work out. So we weren't able to do that. But he will be part of the show come Saturday on The Big Show. Hopefully you'll join us then, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time on CRN Live on YouTube. Then we're going to be getting really big into the schedules that were released yesterday as we do this live. We are going to do a deep dive into the schedules come Saturday.
Might as well go ahead and get ready to have a version of Happy Gilmore 3 because I'm going to tee off on all three series schedules.
Yeah. If there's a positive to be made, NASCAR's showing a willingness to try new things. The question is that a good idea? Yeah, I don't know.
From one aspect, no.
Uh-huh. So we'll get into that, like I said, big time then. In the meantime, let's talk about a couple of other things here. Unfortunate passing of a very noted figure. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Plus, speaking of changes, Steve O'Donnell talking about some stuff. But first things first, Matt Nicholson right here came across a social media post from the guy who NASCAR calls their chief hype officer. Is that right?
Basically the guy that stole Matt Coulter's driver introduction job.
Right.
Let's call it that.
His name is Mamba Smith. We're going to show you right here this particular tweet, X, post, whatever you want to call it, the Twix post. I don't know how he got onto this subject, but in talking about crowning NASCAR's champions, Cup Series champion for the most part, but this could actually work for the Xfinity or the Truck Series too. The point isn't to crown the best driver, it's to crown the best team who executed the best when the pressure was at the highest and the lights were the brightest. Really? You sure about that? Now, on one hand, I kind of understand where he might be getting some of the thinking, because it is something of a team sport. It's not just the driver, it's the pit crew, it's the crew chief, it's so on and so forth. I get that.
Sure. Yep.
But who's the guy getting the trophy?
That would be the individual sitting behind the 5-point harness and holding the steering wheel. That's who that would be. But last I checked, it's not the team championship, it's the driver's championship. Now, you can see right there at the very bottom, my response. Mine plus over, as you can see, over 1,100 other responses. Yeah, that could very well easily be the worst take I have ever heard. And if you go on and go watch the version of Kevin Harvick's deal that he does every week,
Happy Hour podcast,
Kevin Harvick absolutely smoked him in half on this.
And on top of that, the co-host on that, which is Fox Sports, well-known Fox Sports person, Caitlin Vincey, she seemed thoroughly bewildered by what Mamba had to say.
Why would you even take away the credit? Because the person that does the bulk of the work is the driver. It is a driver. I'm directly quoting Kevin Harvick from this. It is a driver-driven sport. That is to not discredit the team, all the way from the crew chief down to the person that holds the pit board sign and everybody in between. That is not discrediting what they do, because they have just as much of a part into it as the driver does. But the majority of the part is driver driven. They're doing the work. They're the one that is in the most danger at any given point. It's a driver's championship. The owner's championship.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm quoting Kevin Harvick here. When was it called the team championship?
And I think there's room there as well, because if you think about what we deal with on this show, on this podcast, and on the big show as well, we deal with it much more on the big show. We kind of tend to focus things down a little bit more on the podcast. But you go to, like he said, you have the driver. In the case of Indycar, you've got the engine manufacturer so that they've got a title. If you go to Formula One, you've got the driver title, you got the team title. Same thing in Formula E. They got a driver title, they got a team title, they got a team manufacturer, which is the builder of the powertrain. Could you actually do a team championship? I guess you could, but isn't the owner's title technically that?
That's basically the same thing.
So I don't know what the big deal is, and I'm not sure what brought this particular part of it out.
I'll tell you where it comes from. This falls in line with the thinking process of the playoff format. Because theoretically here, if my season is up and down, he's got a very consistent season. He's averaging better than a top 15 finish.
Put me in Chase Elliott's position
for
basically.
26 weeks.
Yeah. You could effectively put me in Chase Elliott's position, because if you think about it, Chase Elliott's biggest strength over the last couple of years has been the fact that he's been able to consistently get a top 15, top 10 finish almost every race.
Okay. We're going to put this scenario in right here. We're going to put this very scenario that is actually in place for Saturday night at Daytona. He's in the role of Alex Bowman.
Need a win.
But he's been consistent enough to stay within that top 16 in points range. Beyond consistent enough. Now, a hiccup here and there, that's going to happen to everybody. But consistent enough to stay within the top 16 in owner points.
Yeah, it's a good scenario. I like where you're going with this.
And I cannot believe I'm actually saying this, but you put me in the situation that I'm Cody Ware. I'm in the 51 car.
This could happen.
I'm staying out of trouble. I slip up through there and I get a push enough. I win the race. Guess what I've done? And I've not even sniffed the top 20 all year. I won Daytona. I get a free pass to the playoffs and I knock him out. That's catering to this system right here of what they're saying, because they shine the brightest when they needed to shine. And this is a little bit of a teaser of what the title of this episode is going to be. Dylan, that's his legal name, Dylan Smith, Mamba. You're having a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid there, buddy. Sorry to say it. That's a little bit too much Kool-Aid. Because you have driven before. In ARCA, late models. You've still driven. You got just as much or more of a part than the overall team does. Because at the end of the day, it rides on your shoulders what you do on that black strip.
Let's take you back 14 years ago. Think about 2011 season. Tony Stewart barely makes the playoffs. Doesn't have a win on the planet, but he made the playoffs. What happened in those playoffs? They didn't change a thing. Crew, exact same crew. Crew chief, exact same crew chief. The only thing that might have been different there was the fact that we knew that the crew chief was going to be gone at the end of the year. That was it. Otherwise, all the personnel on that 14 team stayed exactly the same. And then what happens? Tony Stewart rolls off 5 wins in 10 races and wins the title. That was Tony Stewart.
On a tiebreaker, because him and Carl Edwards technically tied. But he won the races.
But he won the race.
By the wins, he got it.
Yep. That was on Tony. Tony pulled that off. And yes, the crew did their job, and they did it admirably. But if Tony hadn't done his job, it wouldn't have mattered how good the crew was. Period.
Exactly, because if you can go out there and in today's age, you can go rip 8.5 second pit stops off all day long. But if I don't get the job done on the racetrack, those 8.5 second pit stops are irrelevant.
Yep.
They're dead in the water. So.
All right, to subject number 2 here, and something you and I have been on really since...
Oh, a tangent.
Yeah, really since the beginning, almost the beginnings of this show way back when, was the fact that we felt like there were too many moonlighters. And what do we mean by that? We mean Cup Series drivers that were going in and racing a whole lot in what is now the Xfinity Series or what is now the Craftsman Truck Series. Didn't matter what they were titled back then. And they were dominating it to the point where Kyle Busch has 100 wins in the Xfinity Series. He's got the most wins in the history of the Truck Series. And he did the vast, overwhelming majority of those wins while he was a full-time Cup Series driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the initial thought, and this is the surface argument behind having moonlighters come down and race the Xfinity or the Truck Series race, and that is to grab the attention of the casual fan who might not necessarily have thought about going to the Xfinity or the Truck Series race. Now all of a sudden they've got a Kyle Busch, or they've got a Chase Elliott, or a Kyle Larson, or a Chase Briscoe, or a fill in the blank here racing in that race, maybe 2 or 3 of them. So I get the fact that there is an attraction there, but if you really want these drivers in the Xfinity, what is soon to be the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, we'll get to that on Saturday too, or the Camping World / Craftsman Truck Series, if you really want them to be able to get better, they learn some by being with the Cup drivers, but truth be told, they usually get smoked by the Cup drivers.
More times than none, yes.
So they're not really able to keep up with them, so therefore they're not really learning a whole lot.
True.
So we kept fighting for there to be a limit, and they finally apparently listened to us, and they put a limit on it. 5. That's the most you can do, and there were limitations on that. Couldn't race in the championship or the cutoff race, final race of the regular season, in other words. If there was a special thing like, Triple Truck Challenge, for example.
Dash for Cash.
Dash for Cash in the
They
Xfinity
changed the Dash
Series.
for Cash last year because Cup drivers did run a Dash for Cash race this year, but they weren't eligible to get the money.
Right. So there were limitations put on it. Okay, fine. 5 we can do. Now all of a sudden we get this guy, Steve O'Donnell.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah.
Steve O'Donnell is, for all intents and purposes, the head honcho at NASCAR. And he said this week, they're thinking about relaxing that rule. How much?
To what expense?
And what's your point? And what would be the point of it? How many races are you going to let them run? Are you going to jump it up to 7? You can make it 10?
I would say double it.
You going to make it 15? I don't think we've got a moonlighting problem here. What you have over the course of any given season is, depending upon the race, you've got varying star cars. You think the Hendrick Motorsports car, the number 17 car, that's a car they only put out, half the season, maybe? Not even?
Approximately, yeah.
And it's a star car. And they'll grab a Cup Series driver, usually from their own group. Maybe they'll grab somebody from one of the other Chevrolet teams that happens to be affiliated with them, and they'll put them in the car. So that's out of 33 races, 15, 16, give or take.
Yeah, approximately.
And again, you're compacted because you're not allowed to do a whole lot, if anything, in the playoffs, for example. Junior Motorsports has a star car too. He's been known to put a couple of Cup Series drivers in there. See where I'm going with this? We have star cars already. We have that ability to do that, and we have a whole lot of drivers that take advantage of it and go down and run an occasional Xfinity or Truck Series race. And Kyle Busch makes sure that he gets 5 races in every single year in both of the lower series. This isn't a problem. They're good with 5, and it's spread out over the course of the season. I don't know why we're trying to mess with something that's not broken. But
We've heard that before.
Yeah, well, as is the familiar refrain for us here, it's a pretty consistent thing that we have seen NASCAR do. And NASCAR's not the only one, granted. But NASCAR seems to do it much more often than anybody else. You take something that's not broken and you try and fix it. There's nothing wrong with the 5 race maximum. Nothing at all.
No.
Leave it alone. Don't mess with a good thing.
Yeah.
What's the old phrase? Leave them wanting more? There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
If they want more, they're not going to want much more. They might just want a little bit more. Leave them wanting more. Give them the taste. Give them the enjoyment of seeing it once in a while, but don't overload it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overload it. That's going to be a big part of the scheduling conversation on Saturday too, by the way. don't overload it.
Get ready because it may go the better part of a full hour.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. And then, unfortunately, we have to wrap on a sad note. And we're recording this on a Thursday, as I mentioned earlier on in the podcast. We found out this morning, passing of a legend. Guy who's set to go into the NASCAR Hall of Fame this coming year. At least he found out that he was going to go.
An absolute giant.
But he passed away late last night, I think it was officially.
It was.
H.A. Humpy Wheeler passed away last night. For those who don't really know, in sports, and producer Molly knows this just as well as anybody, there are promotions people, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, name the sport, name the series. Mm-hmm. There are promotions people out there that do their level best to build up the hype for this game, this match, this race, whatever it is. If there was a master of that in the racing world, and yes, I'm going to put it out to the entire planet, regardless of series. If there was a king of the promotion, it's Humpy Wheeler. Humpy Wheeler is the guy that really, for all intents and purposes, brought night racing to the Cup Series.
That he did.
He was the one that helped make the All-Star race what we know it to be today. and Charlotte Motor Speedway was a magnificent beneficiary of this guy. And it was so perfect considering the fact that the overwhelming majority of NASCAR teams, regardless of what level that they're in, tend to be centered in and around Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's their home base. Mm-hmm. So to have this genius be the promotions guy and the president at Charlotte Motor Speedway coming up with the great ideas to make this place such the centerpiece, it was just perfect. I mean, he recreated the invasion of Grenada in the infield at Charlotte. How do you do that? You put Tony Stewart in a tank, literally. Yeah. Had him driving a tank at the track.
I remember that.
God, there are so many other stunts.
The pre-race military stuff for the 600.
Yeah. I mean, on a much more serious note, and what makes the Coca-Cola 600 on Memorial Day weekend such a great thing.
Well, tribute, not a celebration, more like a tribute, honor, and however you want to word it and look at it. But, and I've had the privilege of seeing those events 4 times now, and they are something else.
Yeah.
And it came from him spearheading that.
Yeah. He's the one that did it. And it really did help also influence a little bit more of what the Indianapolis 500 does.
It does.
I mean, the Indianapolis 500 is a spectacle in and of itself, but the pre-race leading up to it now is more of a spectacle than it ever was before. And it's in part because of what Humpy Wheeler was doing at the Coca-Cola 600 later on that evening. And the Indianapolis 500 said, wait a minute, we're being upstaged. So they stepped their game up.
The only one thing that the Indianapolis 500 had over that was the Jim Neighbors singing "Back Home Again" in Indiana. Oh, yeah. There was nothing that you could tie into Charlotte that I know of to do that.
No, not really.
But other than that, they were just about dead on par.
Yeah, and Humpy Wheeler did that, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we tip our caps to the memory of one H.A. Humpy Wheeler, passed away officially last night, age of 86. We'll go into it a little bit more depth on Saturday as well, make sure that we give him the full credit that he deserves. But
good man.
We wanted to make sure that we gave him the appropriate acknowledgement here as well. Because when he stepped away, he was missed automatically. And Charlotte still does a very nice job in the pre-race ceremonies. Somehow it's missing that Humpy Wheeler touch.
The current president and GM, Greg Walter, he's done a very admirable job keeping those things going. But that touch he had, it's clear that it's not there.
Yeah. I think about Major League Baseball. I think about Bill Veeck. Bill Veeck had 2 fantastic promotions, one of which went wildly wrong. But the other one was he put a little person, a midget, if you want to put it that way, or a dwarf up to bat, gave him the number 1/8 on his jersey, Eddie Goodell. Dude walked on 4 pitches. Of course he did. Strike zone was about yay big. Once he got into a crouch, of course he pinned, of course he walked. That was Bill Veck's idea. And then, of course, they had to make a rule about it. And then you start to get into the late 70s and early 80s, and we're starting to get sick of disco music. Well, he comes up with the idea, along with Steve Dahl of a Chicago radio station when he was the owner of the Chicago White Sox, of Disco Demolition Night. They set it up in the middle of a doubleheader between them and Molly's Detroit Tigers. Well, guess what? The White Sox had to forfeit that game and let the Tigers win it technically by a score of 9-0 because Disco Demolition Night turned into, we're going to demolish Comiskey Stadium. And they did. But it's imagination like that made Bill Veck what he was in Major League Baseball. Humpy Wheeler was able to do that without the destruction.
Yep.
Humpy Wheeler was the man. And the fact that it took them until this year to put him in as the Landmark Award winner into the NASCAR Hall of Fame is a shame, number one. But number two, it's about time. I'm glad that he got to know that he was going to go into the Hall of Fame, which he will be officially inducted in January, before he passed away. Yep. Very well-deserved honor.
Absolutely.
Humpy Wheeler, you will be missed. No doubt about it. NASCAR will miss you because a lot of the ideas and things that NASCAR does on a world around the country at every single race, Humpy Wheeler had a big part of it. We'll be back on Sunday, like we said, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. CRN Live on YouTube. Hope you join us then. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of the week, and we get to talk about schedules come Saturday. And that's not the only big thing. Again, I hinted it. Xfinity's about to get a big name change. We'll detail it all and more coming up on Saturday. Thank you for joining us, and hope you will join us again for the next Crossed Flags.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.